Hey everyone, Sal Biazzi from saloftheearth.com. Um, so I'm scrolling through my Twitter tonight and I come across an article by the Washington Post about Seth Rich's murder, and I immediately get a little bit excited because I'm like, oh, what's the Washington Post going to say about Seth Rich? And as I'm reading it, I'm getting more and more upset, and I want to just kind of read it. I'm just going to read it to you guys and react as I go. And it might be long. I don't know what it's going to turn into, but it's bad. So anyway, the Seth Rich conspiracy shows how fake news still works. On July 10th at 4:19 a.m., gunfire was detected in the district's Bloomingdale neighborhood. Not 5 minutes later, police found Seth Rich, a 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer, lying on the ground, dying from a bullet wound to his back. A conscious Rich was transported to the hospital. By daybreak, he was dead. Now, my initial reaction to that first paragraph, my heart sort of sank, or like my gut dropped, because my first thought was like, holy shit, they're gonna blow us out of the water. Like, even if I believe wholeheartedly that Seth Rich was not killed in a botched robbery, but I really thought Washington Post was going to go through and just slash us with some really good investigative piece that just overwhelmingly convinces this is obviously a botched robbery. It wasn't the angle they went for. So that was my first gut take. Nearly 1 year later, Rich's death remains one of America's thousands of unsolved murders. Okay, so now they just minimize it, but whatever. And the focus of endless conspiracy theories spread this past week by Fox News, alt-right social media, a local DC news station, and the Russian embassy in Britain. What a whirlwind of things that just got thrown at you. All of a sudden, poor Seth Rich, a DC staffer who operated the voter registration for the DNC. He wasn't nobody in the political landscape, at least in the primary season. That's fine. Then they're like, okay, the only people who it's a conspiracy theory spread this past week by Fox News, alt-right social media, a local DC news station, and the Russian embassy in Britain. So they're able to castrate the story as an alt-right lunatic fringe theory. A local DC media station, so they just automatically dismiss all local news, focus only on corporate media up here, and then not just to top it all off, hey, the Russians tweeted about it too. It's a Russian conspiracy theory. All right. We're off to a great start, Washington Post. You're really doing your journalism. I love it. This is what journalism has become. Not going out there and investigating, just telling you claims that happened and then dismissing investigation as mockery. But whatever. The reemergence of the conspiracy theory this week, which did not lack for real news, revealed plenty about the fake news ecosystem. Or to use BuzzFeed's useful phrase, the Washington Post is citing BuzzFeed in an article to dismiss a journalistic investigation into what happened to a man who was murdered as fringe conspiracy theory. Meanwhile, they're quoting BuzzFeed to label it as fake news in a list-based article. This is a list-based article. Oi. Oi. Do your job, Washington Post. That's what this video is going to be titled. It's going to be, do your fucking job, Washington Post, please. Just do your job. We wouldn't have to have this debate over what is and what isn't true if you would go out there and investigate something and come back with some hard evidence that convinces the nation what to think. Instead, you're telling us what to think with bullshit anonymous assertions and then dismissing any sort of hint at conspiracy that might come up if it makes the Clintons look bad. If this kid is dead and it wasn't a botched robbery, the prime suspect is the Democratic Committee. And I don't care if you think that's crazy to say, it's where the facts lead. And this article does not address the facts that are presented by the opposing side, which is what journalism is all about. Let's continue, because this is going to take 9 years. The reemergence of the conspiracy theory this week, which did not lack for real news, revealed plenty about the fake news ecosystem, or as BuzzFeed's useful phrase, the upside-down media. Like, oh, let's quote pop culture with Stranger Things reference. In the Trump era, it also happens to cause untold pain for the Rich family, which has sent a cease and desist letter to the so-called private investigator who led this dive back into the fever swamp. Excuse me. Yeah, the family did send a cease and dismiss letter to Wheeler, and I know on the surface that looks terrible, but when you factor into all the other things, which I'll circle back to later, you have to understand that the sensitivity of the publicity of this matter would be carefully handled by the people in charge. It is a conspiracy, even if it ends up being a true conspiracy. You use the word conspiracy theory to make it sound like it's crazy, but it's not how it works. You have to actually understand what the word conspiracy means, which is a group of people conspiring to do something, and theory, which is you're trying to figure out what that would be. Anyway, here we go. Here's what we learned. TV can be an easy mark. This iteration of the Seth Rich story started when the district's own Fox 5 ran Monday Night Exclusive, citing one source. Now here's where they get you. Citing one source, a Fox legal commentator, Rod Wheeler, for a big break in the investigation. Reporter Marina Morocco, that poor woman is now, the Washington Post just like, this woman has no journalistic integrity. Great. Reported that conspiracy theories could be proven right, as Wheeler was saying what has been rumored since last year. Rich might have leaked DNC emails to WikiLeaks, making him the target of an assassination. You have information that could link Seth Rich to WikiLeaks? Asked Morocco. Absolutely, yeah, that's confirmed, said Wheeler, who Fox 5 identified as the Rich family investigator. Okay. Lot to cover there. First, let's start out. Yes, it's one source story that the local Fox 5 station ran. But National Fox ran a story that had multiple sources that they have never retracted, and they still stand by their assertion that the FBI ran a computer forensic analysis of Seth Rich's laptop. If this were an ordinary robbery, let's just start there, as we emotionally went through at the beginning of this article, if this were an average robbery, why would the FBI ever run a computer analysis of his laptop if he was just mugged at gunpoint and went wrong and shot him? It never addresses the fact that nothing was taken off Seth Rich's body. It never goes through the myriad of things that makes this almost certainly not a robbery. But here, we jump right to the Fox 5 report. We skip all of it and go right to the Fox 5 report and say that was just a one-source story, forgetting that every Russian article that they've put out, probably for the past 6 months, has been attributed to one or two anonymous individuals that you'd never see. At least this guy, Rod Wheeler, went on camera and said, I have heard this information from people I believe are credible. Hey, that guy's a person on TV who's actually saying that. Go to Chuck Grassley, Senator Feinstein, anyone who has any knowledge of the Russia investigation, ask them, have you heard any credible information that makes you think Russia colluded with Donald Trump? Any credible evidence from anyone? They will say, no, there's no evidence yet, because there's not. Here's a guy on camera looking you dead in the eye and saying, I have heard this thing, that this computer was this way. And then you have a Fox News report that confirms that. Ugh, okay. Absolutely, yes, compares to blah, blah, blah. Within 24 hours, reporters for NBC News, CNN, and the Washington Post had debunked the story. First, Rich's family quickly corrected the idea that Wheeler was on the payroll. He was hired by Ed Butowski, a Texas businessman who had grown an interest in the case. Next, Wheeler told CNN he hadn't actually obtained information linking Rich to WikiLeaks. Fox 5, he insisted, had told him to say so. Okay, let's go back. Wheeler entered a contract with the Rich family. The funding was provided by this Ed Bukowski. That's fine, whatever. If Wheeler's role in this case is inconsequential to the questions that are still valid and raised that are unaddressed by this article. So shift the focus onto Wheeler, who went out there and re-sparked this investigation. It doesn't matter that he re-sparked the investigation if the questions that are raised are still valid. Was the laptop confiscated by the FBI and analyzed? If it was, did they find WikiLeaks emails on it? If they did, does that mean Seth Rich was the leaker? Yes, it would. And it would destroy the Russian narrative. That's it. All Washington Post has to do. If it were a real, credible news organization, like it pretends to be all the time, is go to the same contacts that are telling you all about Russia and say, hey, did you guys analyze Seth Rich's laptop? Do you have it? Where is it? And if you get straight denials, report that. And then another journalist will come and try to prove that wrong if he thinks that wrong. That's how journalism works. But you don't go to the other person's story, ignore all the questions raised by it, and simply say, it's fake. It's fake. This isn't about the Fox News DC. That was a reminder of the Seth Rich investigation in the first place. It's a reminder that a year later, a life is still lost, and we still have the fact that WikiLeaks, the organization that we are claiming colluded with Russia in order to ruin our democracy, has a $20,000, I think it's up to $100,000 reward for any information pertaining to this specific case. We know his position gives him opportunity to perpetrate the leak. We know that nothing was taken from his body. We know that he survived and made it to the hospital. We have anonymous doctors online who, of course, you can't obviously trust it out of hand, but are suggesting that they worked on Seth Rich and when he was there, he should have survived his wounds, and that police escorts made him a very important person the night of. Those claims have to be investigated. You can't just ignore it and never bring it up. Okay, so now what about the family? That's a tough one. Because I understand that you have statements on record from the publicist who was hired by the Democratic Party, who is actually a crisis management consultant provided by the DNC. Now remember, WikiLeaks, the organization, is putting out a reward to solve this murder. They don't care if it proves he's the leaker or not. They just want it solved. Come solve this murder. We'll give you money for information that leads to the solving of this murder. So any local DC criminal who may be heard through the grapevine who killed Seth Rich and hears about that reward could go tell WikiLeaks it was just this thug over here who shot him. Whoops. But that hasn't happened yet. And the DNC has put no money towards figuring out who solved this crime, but they're willing to provide a crisis management consultant to the family. We do have a statement from the parents of Seth Rich on record. It's a video. It's a short clip. I'm not going to splice it in here because I'm not really into YouTube that way, but that's cool. Where they are saying to the internet, thank you for helping with the research. Now, I can't personally know when that video was shot. I don't really know when it stands, but it is his parents, and they are thanking the internet for working so hard to solve this murder and get answers for the family. So that's what we're trying to do. Not what the Washington Post is trying to do at all. They have no interest on whether or not Seth Rich was killed by the DNC. They don't even want to entertain the thought. It's just another mugging. They happen all the time. Why are we even talking about this? Nonsense. Washington Post, you're anti-journalism. You're killing America. You're a brain poison. And people who read you and trust you every day like you are some holier-than-thou source, maybe the Bible itself. God imprinted his word on stone and then wrote the Washington Post. Except they couldn't care less about the answer to this question, which, by the way, if the crazy lunatic fringe conspiracy theorists are right, would only make this the most significant murder in at least the last 40 years in this nation. It may be one of the biggest murders of all time if it unravels the entire Clinton crime family syndicate of her foundation, of Monica Peterson, of a million other questions that people have been raising for 30 years and been dismissed as conspiracy theorists by people like you, Washington Post, who should be doing the shit that we are doing on the internet right now. Now, I'm already at 14 minutes, so I am going to just scroll. I want to make one more point. You can read this article yourself. All of it is terrible. But I just want to say that Jimmy Dore gets a little shout out here because they want to let you know that even liberals can be crazy. So if you hear your friends on the left and your friends on the right all talking about this conspiracy theorist, it's all of them that surround you that are the ones that are crazy. And it's not you in the middle reading the Washington Post. It's not you reading the Washington Post. You're the only sane one in America. Your liberal friends who hate the news and your right-wing friends who hate the news, who are all telling you it sucks, are crazy. because they believe that Seth Rich may not have been robbed, even though, again, nothing was taken. His laptop is somewhere. It's either in the police station or at the FBI, but neither of them want to admit it. And one of them might have done a complete forensic search, and there might have been emails to WikiLeaks on it, but no one really knows, and no one wants to ask the question. He made it to the hospital alive. No one knows how he died at the hospital. No one cares to ask. He lives 9 minutes away from the bar, and it took him 40 minutes to get shot. He was shot outside of his home. There's a lot of things about this case that don't automatically say robbery. And no one wants to know. Except for WikiLeaks. Julian Assange is on record interested in this case. He is the person who leaked those emails. I know we all just want to assume it was Russia. It's definitely Russia. I agree with you. Definitely Russia did it. But maybe we should also investigate what the person who leaked it is saying. Maybe. Because we have no evidence of Russia. And if it's Seth Rich, it could save us a lot of trouble and taxpayer dollars. All we would have to do is look at what was on that laptop. Literally, all we would have to do was find out if Seth Rich ever emailed WikiLeaks. That doesn't sound that hard. All we would have to do is solve a robbery, which happens all the time, right? So why are we the only people who care about the answers to these questions? And why are you allowed to have an investigation into Russia because the Washington Post and CNN said so? They're bullshit. That's not our fault. Have a good night.